Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. How are you doing? Just checking to see if I am live. And if you are here, say hello. I just wanted to hop on and offer this opportunity to have a Q&A session with you guys because I receive a lot of questions and sometimes answering them in person doesn't always work. So I thought, why not take a topic and just see where we can go with this, and hopefully you find this valuable. So if we have never met, my name is Yeva, and I'm an ESL teacher, ESL teacher coach, and the owner and creator of simplyyeva.com. I love helping other teachers with ready-made resources and coaching and tips. So this is one of the ways that I can give back to all of you by sharing what I know and also, listening to your needs. So without further ado, let's go right in. We have 5 questions today, and I hope that I will answer whatever your needs are. And if you have any questions coming up, drop them in the comments, and I will check them at the end of the answers that I provide here. So let's dive in. So the first question is from Sahava. And Sahava asks, what are the best resources and ways to share resources with other subject teachers, especially during test prep time? So as we all know, we are in testing season, whether you are doing the ELL testing in Awida State or whether you are, your mainstream testing is going to begin. So here are some tips that I came up with. So you have to collect materials ahead of time. So for example, if you are a teacher who sees your students for a certain amount of time during the day and the rest of the day they are in the mainstream classrooms, just think about, your students best and you know what they should be working on, especially if they're exempt from certain parts of the state testing. So collect your resources ahead of time. If you haven't joined, I have a free resource library. The link to it is in the About section of this Facebook group, and I have some worksheets there. Also, see if they can just basically send the work with the teachers to the classroom so that the students can be engaged in learning even during the test prep season. Another one that I have found very effective is to create a shared document or shared, either a Google Doc or an Excel spreadsheet where you can include the date and any materials that the students to work on during the test prep. So again, I'm assuming the test prep here is, the big testing, not necessarily the classroom testing like unit tests. So usually in the document, I write the date and list the main things that we have been working on with the student, and tips for the teacher on how they can help the student reach the content, or what worksheets or what reading assignments or any other assignments that they can give to the teacher. I think it is very important. One of the parts of this shared document is it is important for you to be on top of communicating with the teacher. For example, email them to draw their attention to the document, because it is not on top of their mind to check they're not gonna. I've noticed that a lot of teachers, we have this grand idea of creating a common plan, and to help our student, but at the same time, nobody remembers to check it or to replenish it and so on. So this is important for you. If you collect the materials ahead of time, if you create a document, and if you stay on top of the teacher, basically say, hey, I know you're doing this, they will check their email. So, and whether they respond or not, you have reached out to them. And also provide them with some sort of a checklist of what they can actually expect from the student, especially like if you have, let's say, let me see, I have, what can the student do at their level, right? So we all want the language to be, the students to perform at a certain rigor, but at the same time, you have to know what they're able to do. So the test prep was not specified here, but communication via email and via shared documents really works when it comes to helping your ELL students during test prep. So I hope I answered this question for Sahava, and I'm going to move forward with the next question. And again, if you need any more clarification, just pop it in the comments and I will check it at the end of this. Now, the second question, it is not necessarily about collaboration, but I wanted to answer it anyway because it is quite a widespread issue. So Claudia asks, what program is best for kids to who have learning disability in their native language? So again, this is not a very this is kind of like a broad question, but here's my take on it. So whenever a student has a disability, whether, especially if it is diagnosed in another language, let's say, for example, a student comes from another country, and in another country, it has been determined that they have a disability. Likely, they will be, re-evaluated in your new school district. But the most important thing is that the determination has to be done between a team of teachers, and ELL teacher is only one part of it. So the fact that the student has a disability in their first language, it will likely transfer to any other language they're learning. And I think the first step is to establish the dominant language of the student in order to even go forward with any programs. I am not very familiar with, I did some research, but I'm not very familiar with a program, whether the program you're talking about would be a special education program or an ELL program, because when you're teaching language, the principles are the same, except you probably have to add more scaffolds for a student with a disability and expect a lot longer time span for them to acquire certain skills. But going back to the dominant language, you have to consider how long has the student been in the country. And what is their comfort language? This is a huge one. I think, personally, the student's one of the signs that a student is dominant in a certain language is the language that they revert to when speaking to their family members, to their brothers and sisters, to whenever they're, in any kind of distress or any kind of joy, okay? So this is the language that tells you that they are the most comfortable in. And of course, there are tests. We just recently did a Spanish language evaluation for a student that has been, but I cannot remember. You have to work with the special education team to see whatever evaluation they can give the student. And of course, you have to look at which language the student is more literate in and more comfortable in. So regarding a program, it truly depends on the disability the student has been diagnosed with. So language acquisition will happen no matter what, but the rate at which it occurs might be impeded by the disability, and especially if it is a language-related disability, such as reading, or such as a specific language disability. So the program really talk with your special education team, and also look into the programs such as Wilson reading program. Again, I'm not sure which age group you're talking about. So I hope this was helpful, at least, kind of like putting you on the right track on where to start looking for information. The next question is from Linda, and this, again, isn't necessarily collaboration, but I think it entails a lot of it. Okay, so the question itself sounds like this. What about the student that just does not care about school? All F's except band, which has an A, junior high, and wants to quit school and only cares about gaming. Is there a way that teachers can be united to help him accountable? That is a tough question to answer. I looked around, and I will link a couple of an article, one in particular article that I have found, that might be helpful to you. But it is so common, but such a sad, situation. So there are several factors that we have to consider and kind of like weed out. So likely his behavior is coming from his life outside of school. Okay, so gaming might be his way to escape, to decompress. Okay. It could be his way to deal with emotions of anger and depression, and also there might be no positive role models whatsoever. So if there have been no positive role models all his or her life, to start introducing something now, it's a lot more difficult. Another point is that when a student is in such a situation, it has very little to do with you personally, and unfortunately, we feel like we don't have much control over what's going on in his world outside of school. But what we can do is just be there and just be patient. I think. The teachers, especially let's say ELL teachers, get to see a little bit of a different side of students than everybody else. And for other teachers, I think if you came up with a plan of how to, let's say, keep giving positive reinforcement, not in a cheesy way, oh, you did well and whatever, but point out, constructive feedback about what works. It eventually, if everybody does that, it will eventually reach him. So one of the things that I read in the article that I mentioned and that I'm going to link up after this Q&A, kind of like trying to find connection points. So the fact that he enjoys band is huge. It is huge. You can connect whatever he's doing. You can show interest. So a person needs validation, right? And do not underestimate the element of surprise in whatever they're doing. Okay, so we have to meet the students where they're at. Maybe he needs to joke around, or maybe he needs to feel valued. So this is where band comes in. Maybe he needs to show that he's worth something. The kid likely has given up. So I think sitting down with a team of his teachers and trying to see beyond what you're seeing on the outside, because whatever's going on the inside is a reflection in his grades. Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he has this idea that, I'm stupid and no matter what, nobody's going to change it. So meeting his basic needs as much as possible in the school environment, giving specific feedback, pointing out the good achievements and painting a picture, actually making him see where he can go with those. So it is hard and emotional, and a lot of times we have students like that, and we just, it is hard to see, and we think that we do not, we feel like we're not giving enough, but in fact, you never know like which words or actions or jokes or anything will make a difference for him. So just being there and just doing one day at a time. Again, sitting down with a team of teachers and then deciding on what you want from him, and then maybe involving him in his own learning, and maybe setting some doable, achievable goal and kind of like building on that. So I would love to hear if any of this makes sense to you, and if any of this will allow you to kind of like move forward. So all right, so we have question number 4. I just realized that I didn't put any headphones, so I'm hoping that you guys are hearing what I'm saying. So the question number 4 is, again, quite general. And it's, what about the students who have never been taught and faced with the target language and feel they won't be able to achieve goals in English? And of course, teachers are encouraging and make them feel comfortable in class. Besides the, what do we do besides the interactive books and resources in class? At the end, they quit or change English schools or something like that. So it's a great question, and I think that there are a lot of students who begin learning English, whether in an immersion situation, such as English as as their second, third, or whatever language, or in EFL situations. So a lot depends on the age. So in my experience, the younger the students, the easier and quicker they catch on. The older the students, even starting with 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, and especially older, the more psychological and rigor factors are included. So the most important point, again, is to meet the student where they're at. If the student has never learned English before, okay, asking them to do something that they're not yet able to do, for example, something that the rest of the class, which is comprised of native speakers or those who have been learning English for some years, will cause much more anxiety. When learning a language, the student has to be at this optimal state of kind of like relaxed, but at the same time a little bit tense. So it's so the fact, if they are very, very stressed out, there's not a lot of learning that's going to take place. So providing students with explicit language instruction, for example, like if a student needs alphabet and sentence structure, basic spelling and grammar rules, they need to get that. And asking them to do simple tasks such as labeling and categorizing will yield much more results. Quitting and changing schools, I just had in my experience a situation where the student changed schools because they thought that it was not up to par, or they were not learning fast enough. But the thing is that we as ESL teachers know this, but somehow it seems a point forgotten very frequently. Language learning takes time. There's no anything around it, okay? So changing schools or quitting is not going to speed up the language learning process. When we decide to learn a language, or are made to, as a lot of English learners are when they move with a family, we are in it for the long haul. So as a reminder, social language takes 1 to 3 years to develop. The social language is the chatting with friends in the hallway, and academic is like anywhere 5 to 9 years, and that is in the environment of an English only speaking environment. So I would say meeting the student where they're at and actually working with the teachers, again, sharing information as much as you can. Providing weekly tips to the other teachers who have not dealt with the students, or who are not sure how to be with the English learners in their classrooms. You can, again, send a weekly tip as an email. You can share the document. You can stop by for 5 minutes. You can, if you have time, and if your administration allows, you can provide some professional development to your staff in general, to kind of say, hey, this is not, like an apple at Walmart, okay? You can't just go in and buy it. It's language. It takes time. So I would say these would be my tips. Meet the students where they're at, and also, encourage them. Build on what they know. And the last question, it is from Tiffany, and what Tiffany said. My principal is wanting my team to push into all the mainstream classrooms next year and work with the whole class or small groups. This will be new to me, and I'm reaching out for new ideas on how to collaborate with those teachers. Anything you can share on this topic is appreciated. So the push-in model can work, well, but there have to be some ground rules established. And the administration has to understand what it looks like, and both the teachers, okay? Because in my experience, this is just my experience, but in my experience in working in small districts, it can, if both teachers are not on the same page, the ELL teacher can very easily slip into an overpaid paraprofessional, role. So working with a whole class looks like it might be a co-teaching model, which means that the content area teacher delivers instruction and content, and the ESL teacher focuses on language. Again, this needs to be done, you have to have like a built-in planning period where you both are on the same page. And then small groups is when an ESL specialist works with students inside the classroom, teaching, reteaching, and reinforcing learned concepts. So again, there's a lot of collaboration goes on, and I don't know if you have read the book. I'm gonna just move over here. If you have a situation like this, here's an excellent book, Collaborating for English Learners, by Andrea Honigsfeld and Maria Dove, and it outlines all kinds of ways that you can collaborate with the teacher, especially in a co-teaching situation, which is considered one of the better ways for all students, and especially English learners. And so I also have a couple of blog posts on how you can collaborate, and I will link them in the comments. And I think these are just a few things to keep in mind when you are considering about doing co-teaching with your colleagues. So that is all the questions for today. I'm going to look at my phone to check for any of the comments that we have, and I'm going to refresh just to see if I can answer. I see something, and I see that TC says, I have a student who keeps saying, I don't care, I will drop out, I will not do it every day. And really, he does not do anything besides watching movies. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. And TC says, we have sheltered instruction, Google Classroom, where I can collaborate with the mainstream classroom teachers. This is working great so far. That is awesome. So yes, Google Classroom as well. And this is a very, very good point. But I think, so I have to say, with the students who say, I don't care, I will drop out, I think I work in a classroom. I share a classroom with a special education teacher. And so my students, I think I'm like one lucky teacher, because my students are very, very driven. At the high school, middle school, it's, not so much, but it's like, it's the age. But I also see the high school students, who are a little bit more depressed, a little bit more troubled. And there are some students that I see that say that I will drop out, I don't care. There's, in my mind, it feels that there is some repressed anger and some like not fulfillment inside. And you do what you can do, but I think if you ask them questions, open-ended questions, such as how can, sometimes when we ask ourselves questions, like if I say, why am I so stupid? I mean, there's no answer to that, okay? But if you ask, how can I help you? Or what do you think can be done? And if you ask that enough and lead them onto the path, they eventually, you will break that wall. But again, I think it is super important to let them know that this is, you are here. the expectation is here, but at the same, like a little bit of like tough love, but at the same time, just watching by the situation. I hope I'm making sense, and I hope I'm helping you out a little bit in this department. So it looks like my phone froze for a moment here. Let me see if I can come up. Yeah, I think we have, that is all the comments. So like I mentioned, I will link up the article about how you can look into to motivate students who are seem a little troubled. And I also will link up a couple of blog posts of mine about the collaboration. I will show the book again. Also, this is the Collaborating for English Learners. And I hope you found this session useful. And if you like, we can do this once a month again. You're most welcome, TC. We can do this again, and I will again post whatever topic. I think a good topic would be student motivation next month. But I will post a question, and you can, you can pick a topic, and then you can pick, ask questions about it again. All right. Hi, Jennifer. First year is rough, but you can do this. I know that. I know that. And then you will never go back because ESL is the place where it's at. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching. And I look forward to continuing helping you. Bye for now.